On this episode of Locked On Lightning, is Tanner Jeannot out of Tampa Bay? We talk about that and some rumors circulating around him. All that coming up and more on Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Adam Danker. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Locked On Lightning. Just a reminder, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On this episode, we're talking about the rumors surrounding Tanner Jeannot. Is he out of Tampa Bay? And if he is, where is the most likely scenario as to where he might end up? But I just want to remind you all, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're also available on YouTube, so go ahead, subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification button so as soon as the newest episode drops, you'll be notified. And drop a comment below this video. Let me know, what are the chances in your mind that Tanner Jeannot ends up not in a Lightning uniform this offseason? So this all started. Let me backtrack real quick. I originally wanted to come into this episode today and just do another player review. Just wanted to do another player review, talk about Tampa season, really, take a look back. Keep all the offseason stuff, ready for June. But Elliot Friedman threw a wrench in my plans. I think it was last week. I think Elliot Friedman, you all know Elliot Friedman. He's a hockey writer, one of the best in the game. I very much enjoy all the stuff that Elliot Friedman, all the content that he puts out. This was on his podcast with Jeff Merrick. And if you don't know who Jeff Merrick is, please go ahead and listen to his radio show, which he does every week. It's phenomenal. They have a podcast together. It's called 32 Thoughts. You've probably heard of it. And I'm just going to quote what Friedman said about Jeannot. Now, I don't listen to 32 Thoughts here and there. Maybe I'll tune in, but I guess apparently on the previous episode prior to this one, they spoke about maybe Tanner Jeannot or maybe alluded to it. So this is what Friedman had to say. He says, one thing we wondered about in one of our last podcast a month or two ago was Tanner's situation. I got a couple of calls from people saying that's going to be one to watch because his salary, which is about 2.6, Tampa can use the space. Really hasn't worked out as well as everyone has hoped between him and the Lightning, Friedman said. But there's a lot of teams out there that see something and they think he's more of a player in Nashville than he was a player in Tampa Bay. So I do think that depending on everything that Tampa is going to want to do, they're going to have to consider it. And I do think there are teams out there who are interested. And now in the coming days, well, really, I think it was today or maybe yesterday, a article, I think it came out on the Hockey News, came out saying that Calgary it looks like Calgary might be one of the front runners for Tanner Jeannot. And, we'll talk more about this in the second segment because I just, it's just one of those things where I'm not disappointed in some people in Bolts Nation. I just don't get it. And what I mean is there was a lot of people as soon as this broke, as soon as this came out, even before the Calgary rumor dropped today or yesterday or whatever, there was a lot of people really saying, let's do this. Let's pull the trigger. And it's just mystifying to me. But really, the rumor to me, and obviously throughout this whole conversation, we'll be talking about this, but really, I think that all it is a rumor. I think, I'm not saying that Friedman he has agendas or anything like that. Absolutely not. But this kind of seems like it just seems like something that's really too out of, it's something that I don't think was on the radar for a lot of people just because it wasn't. I'm not discounting the validity of there being a possibility that other teams are interested in Tanner Jeannot. No, I would kind of be hoping to a certain degree if other teams were interested in Tanner Jeannot, because then that means to Lightning fans that you still have a good player on your hands. And I think that, that's all it is. I don't expect anything to come out of this. I think the Lightning are going to exercise their options in the offseason. And I think at the end of the day, Tanner Jeannot isn't in those plans for personnel that need to be moved out of Tampa Bay. I think that it would be not only kind of ridiculous and premature to do so, but I think it would also be irresponsible to just allow or to trade away Tanner Jeannot at this point in time. For reasons that I've listed on this podcast when we did our Tanner Jeannot player review, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago. Go ahead and tune into that. That's on our 2023-24 player reviews playlist on our YouTube page if you want a quick search for that. But I don't see the reason for the Lightning to do a move like this. I other than shed cap, which I think at the end of the day, it's just, I think it's more so you would have to give up more than just Jeannot for a team to take on his salary, just because of the fact that other teams are fully aware that Tampa Bay wants to get rid of cap space. They want to make moves in the offseason. And they're somewhat borderline desperate to do so. And I think a lot of teams, regardless of if it's Tanner Jeannot or not, are going to try and take as much advantage of that as possible and try to put the Lightning in somewhat of a situation where they're going to have to make another mistake and give up a little bit more than maybe they would have normally have done. And because if you're trading away Tanner Jeannot, at the end of the day, all you're doing is getting draft picks. I mean, you're not getting minor league prospects. But my issue with that whole idea of that, and where I have the issue with Elliot Friedman, his whole spiel on that, as well as the whole Calgary Flames thing, is how would it make sense for Tampa Bay afterwards? Because I don't really see a scenario, even after you trade Jeannot, where you could bring back Steven Stamkos. Okay, that's the number one thing on the agenda for the Lightning this offseason. And then afterwards, you have to go out and get another forward, whether it be from Syracuse, bring them up. I've spoken about conclaves in the past. I've spoken about Cole Koepke. Someone actually commented on one of the past videos from last week saying, why are we talking about Cole Koepke? We're talking about Cole Koepke in 2024 because he's a good player. I don't care what you think about him. The guy did not get a fair shot up the NHL level. And I think you put him in a situation now, he's going to come out a lot better than it was a couple of years ago. He's a little bit more mature and his game is developed. A little sidetrack right there. But getting back to the main point of focus here, I don't see any trade scenario making sense. Now, if Jeannot was making $3, $4, $5 million a year, that's a whole nother thing. But the guy's making 2.6. That's yeah, it's nice to shed that cap space, but at the same time, you're not getting much back. And at the end of the day, you're gonna have to go out and get someone of equal but really you're not gonna get anybody of more value than him. Of equal value. which is why a trade or that rumor in general does not make any sense to me. Because really, what are you setting yourself up for? Are you planning to try and make a play for Stamkos and Duclair? Is this your way of are you gonna give up Connor Sheary, which I doubt is gonna happen? I mean, if there's any trade that the Lightning are gonna have to make to and give up a lot more than what they're getting back in return, it's gonna be a deal where you get rid of Connor Sheary. That hands down is gonna be the case. So I ask you, Lightning fans, and I'll ask you this question in our second segment, because I feel a lot of you have given up on him, which is ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. Would you rather have Connor Sheary or would you rather have Tanner Jeannot? Because I feel like if the Lightning were to make that deal, like I said, it's all about this deal making sense. If the Lightning give up Tanner Jeannot just to shed that cap, regardless of how much money, chances are, unless the Lightning turn around and make a phenomenal trade or get a player, the chances of getting probably almost, I would almost venture to say that Connor Sheary is public enemy number one among Lightning fans. But are you willing to give away? Are you willing to trade away Tanner Jeannot and give up on him so early in his development in order just to rid yourselves of just a not the bad taste of the deal that brought him into Tampa Bay? Is that really what we're trying to force? What through this rumor? Is that the storyline we're trying to push? I mean, we'll talk about that in the second segment, but really ask yourselves when you think about how I've broken it down, is this a deal that makes sense? So let me know in the comments below. I mean, regardless of the deal, is it a move that makes sense for Tampa Bay? And it's something that we're going to have to ask ourselves, as probably the rumors will heat up once the playoffs are over, because all this is going to do, intentional or not, is just fan the flames of trying to get rid of Tanner Jeannot out of Tampa Bay. So coming up in just a little bit, we're going to talk about just some stuff that I saw on social media from you guys about Tanner Jeannot. And I thought we were all on the same page after the Tanner Jeannot player review, but I don't think we were. But we'll talk more about that. But first, we're going to talk about our first sponsor on today's show, our only sponsor on today's show, and that is our friends over at FanDuel. Now, it's winner take all time in the NHL, people, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. Who you betting on? Eastern Conference Finals. We got Rangers. We got Panthers. Western Conference Finals. We got Oilers and Stars. Honestly, I know a lot of you are probably rooting for the Panthers. Florida, all that stuff. That's great. But honestly, me being a New Yorker, as well as just I can't bring myself to root for a team, especially the Panthers, especially when they beat the Lightning in the playoffs. I'm rooting for the Rangers. I mean, they had a little bit of a setback in Game 4, but I still think that, they could string it together, but they got to play better. I saw a lot of holes there in that last game with them that I actually saw during the Lightning series that the Florida Panthers were able to exploit. So I got my money on the New York Rangers to win the series, as well as I got my money on the Dallas Stars. Like I said before, if you haven't caught it, we are on the bandwagon for the Dallas Stars. Let me know, does Dallas pull it off against McDavid and co out west? So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So we're continuing our discussion on the Tanner Jeannot rumor that was started intentionally or not by Elliot Friedman, I believe it was on 32 Thoughts. It might have been on another outlet now that I think about it, but I'm pretty sure it was 32 Thoughts. But yeah, so it was 32 Thoughts. So my thing with all of this, that is really the more disappointing thing, or really aspect of it all, is some of the reactions that I saw from you very briefly on social media when this news kind of was tweeted out. I don't know if it was by a Lightning fan. And I kind of felt almost surprised about it, because I felt like very good when we did our player review segment on Tanner Jeannot. And I kind of felt like that we kind of have gotten to the point where we've gotten over that whole fiasco of a trade. Okay. Like let's be honest with ourselves. It was not a good trade, but like I stated in the episode, I really thought that, Jeannot looked better this year. At times he kind of looked comfortable. Obviously he was more so just of a physical player. That's really what his role has been. But I thought his offense really took a step forward. And some people are saying, he was overhyped. Some people are saying that he's not a good fit in Tampa. My argument in that player preview is that I just think it's a matter of line combinations. I brought it up saying how I didn't mind if Tampa played with the idea of having Jeannot on that first line with Point and Kucherov here and there, not full time. I mean, if it works, sure, keep it together. And I don't think it would hurt anyone on that line to have kind of a guy who could throw his weight around consistently and not miss games from it. And I think that the only thing that you could see coming out of that situation is Jeannot's offense, his numbers getting better. And I saw a progression in his game this year. It wasn't pretty. It's not flashy like we see from times from, Hagel and Point and Cooch and, whatever. But the guy played 55 games, had 7 goals and 14 points. And I think that, we need to realize, or at least ask the question like we did on this episode when I did the player review, is what would have a full 82 game season out of Tanner Jeannot potentially have looked like? Now, I'm not saying he's going to replicate what he did in 21-22. I mean, that was his first full season in the league, 24 goals, 41 points. That's obviously the guy the Lightning traded for. But my issue with it all is not so much what he has done or what he has not done in Tampa Bay. It's just how quick the fan base has flipped on this guy. And it just occurred to me now. I mean, we're talking about this on his birthday. What are the chances? But the coincidence, I mean, I think that Lightning fans, some of you are on my side with this and realize that, not everyone is going to be Brandon Hagel. Not everyone is going to be Nick Paul. Not everyone is going to come into Tampa Bay and light the world on fire in the first 2 seasons. Some guys take a little longer than others. And I didn't think that Jeannot's play this year hurt the team. That's what it seems like from a lot of the reaction that we got, especially over the last couple of days, where I've seen online, people are calling for Tanner Jeannot's head. Ship him out first chance you get. No, that, like I said, why? And I've talked about this with Chernak, and I've talked about this with other players on this team. Just because you want a player out doesn't mean it's going to benefit the team. Like the old cliche saying goes, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I firmly believe that with Tanner Jeannot. I don't think Lightning fans understand that this guy might be on the verge of his breakout season. Not saying he's going to score 24 goals this year, but he could very well go out there and make a huge impact on this team playing on the third line. And I think that, he has earned another season in Tampa Bay just by how he played last year, and just seeing in game one of the series against Florida, how really overmatched physically Tampa Bay was without him in the lineup, which to this day, I still won't understand why he was scratched from that game, why Cooper did not play him. I to this day, I can't understand why or what the reasoning was. That's a whole other thing that we could babble about in the middle of the summer, but I just feel like Lightning fans are all in agreement that you want to go out there and win a cup, and you want to be competitive for many years to come. I think that we're all in agreement that is something that we're working towards, as well as, Julian Brees-Boss is working towards, and obviously everybody else on the team. Like I asked you guys before, what are you really in reality going to get back for this guy? I'm also going to ask you another question, and let me know in the comments below, because really, like I said, I saw a lot of you just jump on the bandwagon right away and say, hey, let's get rid of this guy. The rumor's out there. Let's do it. And at the other side of that, I don't see, I know Calgary is, if that rumor is true, in reality, what are you getting back of value for him? Because you're not getting a first round pick from him. That's really the only thing of value that you're going to get back. It's not like you need a goaltender, because I know Jacob Markstrom's on the block. You're not getting him. What do you want? Jonathan Huberdeau? Do you want Mangiapane? Who do you want that you think is going to be the difference between the Lightning making the playoffs and going forever as long as they can and winning a cup and being a cup contender? Because I guarantee you're not going to find it in Calgary, and you're not going to find it in any Tanner Jeannot trade. So let me know in the comments below. Do you really think dealing this guy away is going to be the difference between pretenders and contenders? So wrapping things up on the show, I just want to thank you all for making this your first listen of the day. And if you want to follow more of my work, go ahead on to Bolt by the Bay. I'm dropping content there as well. So we just got done talking about Tanner Jeannot, and it's really a rumor that I wish would have waited until July, just because, the draft's over. We could kind of exhale, and it's just also a rumor that I'm not excited about, because I don't believe it's a realistic thing that's going to happen. I don't see a market for him outside of Tampa Bay. And unless the Lightning, which I don't think they are, would be dumb enough to take a deal on him where they give up more than what really they're getting back in return. Because, really, what a value are you getting for this guy? Are you getting a fourth and a fifth from a team that is a contender? Are you going to trade him to Edmonton for a fourth and a fifth? Are you trading him to Seattle? Or I'm just throwing out names in the Western Conference, because I doubt Tampa Bay is going to be trading Tanner Jeannot to any Eastern Conference team. And I also think that if you do trade him away, you're admitting failure. And I don't think that's something that the Lightning need to do. I think that it hasn't gotten to that point. Like I said, he has his uses. He could play well physically. I think if given the chance and put in the right situation, he could play a 200-foot game consistently for 82 games. I mean, a lot of that has to depend on him, whether or not he could stay healthy. But I don't see anything happening of merit that is going to benefit this team. And like I said, be the difference maker between qualifying for the playoffs and contending for a Stanley Cup. I don't see, unless they pull off a hustle of a lifetime and get some phenomenal player in the deal, which I doubt would happen. But really, like I said, at the beginning of the show, really what it comes down to is that now this is kind of diverted attention from really what the elephant in the room has been for Tampa Bay all season long, and that has been Steven Stamkos' contract. And then now the talk on that is also going to be Victor Hedman. I spoke about it, I think even before the Lightning were eliminated. I kind of alluded to it here and there. You know, whatever Stamkos gets, Hedman is probably going to not be far behind. Especially now with the addition of McDonough and his contract. Does this mean Stamkos gets a lower deal? And if so, did he agree to that beforehand? Or was this something, did Julian Brees-Boss go rogue and he has a deal for maybe Chernak or whomever? It's going to be a very interesting offseason. I spoke about it in the Hayden Fleury player review last week, who I firmly believe should have a place on this team next year. Just helping some of the players from Syracuse, especially the defensemen, get acclimated. You know, you have a guy who has been in the league for quite a while. Yes, he's not your ideal defenseman, but in the right situation, you could make it work between him and whoever, whether it be him and Lilleberg or whoever else. And I think all this Tanner Jeannot stuff thus far, as well as what's going to happen from it, because this all it's going to do is create noise. And if it does turn out they trade Jeannot, then I'll come on the episode and I'll talk about how I was wrong and we should have paid more attention to this. But I don't think that's the case. I don't see anything on the horizon that entices me to believe that Tanner Jeannot is out of Tampa Bay. I would say it's more likely that Stamkos is gone than Tanner Jeannot. I hate to say it, but it might be true. For those of you asking, Anthony Duclair's gone. He's not resigning. I'd be shocked. If you watched his exit interview that he had right after the playoffs, the way he was just talking, it seemed he was talking about Tampa Bay in the past tense. It didn't seem like he had any interest whatsoever of coming back to Tampa Bay. I wouldn't be surprised if he's just waiting for the playoffs to end and he's going to call Florida and say, listen, I want to come back. I would say that, you know, this offseason for the Lightning, obviously they're gonna work and do as best as they can to sign Stamkos to a deal that makes sense and is reasonable for both parties. But out of all the things that are probably the least impossible or the most impossible or whatever you want to say, but out of all the things that really I want to happen that are not going to happen, I think the next logical step for this Lightning team is to move on from Erik Chernak. You know, you could always kind of, with what the Lightning have in Syracuse and you know, the group they have around them, this might sound like a blasphemous statement, but I think it's a lot easier to kind of figure out your defense on the fly and live with what you have. And because you could always pay for it later with cap space if you have some, instead of trading away forwards. And now, yes, you have defense, but guess what? You have less scoring. You have less guys who could lay their body around. And that's definitely what you miss with Tanner Jeannot. Not so much the scoring, but like I said, you know, stick a pin in that. Who knows what kind of player he's going to be this year. But now you're back to the old problem that we had about 4 years ago. Going to the deadline, looking for players that could throw their weight around and be gritty. And guess what? Whatever when the trade deadline is, whether it be March or whatever, I don't want to hear anybody complain that, oh, we shouldn't have traded Tanner Jeannot because that's who we had to be the big guy on this team. So let me know in the comments below. I mean, I'll be writing an article about this in the coming days on Bolts by the Bay, so keep an eye on that. And I'll be posting the article to my Twitter page. So go ahead and follow me on Twitter at DankyDank, DENKYD8NK. But I mean, it's borderline annoying that we're already talking about this, and it's it's May 29th. I knew there would have been some sort of rumors surrounding him, but I didn't think this early in the offseason for the Lightning. So yeah, we'll check back tomorrow and we'll continue our player reviews from this season. As to who we might be talking about, you'll have to tune in to find out. So in the meantime, that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.